Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
So continuing our reading from Granthara Srimad Bhagavatam. It's freezing cold outside, so we're stuck indoors again.
Yes, it's very cold outside.
Anyway.
Canto 3, Chapter 3, Text 14. This is the Lord's pastimes out of Vrindavan. That's the chapter title. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Thank you for reciting with me. Alright, text 14. After the end of the Battle of Kurukshetra, the Lord said, the abatement of the earth's great burden, 18 actual henis, has now been effected with the help of Drona, Bhishma, Arjuna and Bhim. But what is this? There is still the great strength of the Yadu dynasty born of myself, which may be a more unbearable burden. Papa. It is a wrong theory that due to an increase in population, the world becomes overburdened and therefore there are wars and other annihilating processes. The earth is never overburdened. The heaviest mountains and oceans on the face of the earth hold more living entities than there are human beings, and they are not overburdened. If a census were taken of all the living beings on the surface of the earth, certainly it would be found that the number of humans is not even 5% of the total number of living beings. If the birth rate of human beings is increasing, then the birth rate of other living beings is increasing proportionately. The birth rate of lower animals, beasts, aquatics, birds, etc. is far greater than that of human beings. There is an adequate arrangement for food for all the living beings all over the earth by the order of the Supreme Lord. And he can arrange more and more if there is actually a disproportionate increase of living beings.
Interesting point, actually, isn't it? I mean, there's a lot of talk about overpopulation, but if you actually look at the mass, the numbers of humans on the planet compared to other living entities, some of which consume a lot more than humans in terms of food. Of course, there's a whole other thing about how humans deal with and interact with the earth, but it's interesting. And as the so-called population increases, then the Lord can supply unlimitedly and look after everything, So, anyway, of course, we need to not be greedy. What's that saying? This famous saying, the earth supplies enough for our need, but not enough for our greed. So, like that. Therefore, there is no question of an increase in population causing a burden. The earth became overburdened due to the dharma glani, or irregular discharge of the Lord's desire. The Lord appears on the earth to curb the increase in miscreants and not the increase in population, as is wrongly put forward by the mundane economists. When Lord Krishna appeared, there had been a sufficient increase in miscreants who had violated the desire of the Lord. The material creation is meant for fulfilling the desire of the Lord, and his desire is that the conditioned souls who are unfit to enter into the kingdom of God have a chance to improve their conditions for entering. The entire process of cosmic arrangement is intended just to give a chance to the conditioned souls to enter the kingdom of God, and there is an adequate arrangement for their maintenance by the nature of the Lord.
Therefore, although there may be a great increase in population on the surface of the earth, if the people are exactly in line with God consciousness and are not miscreants, such a burden on the earth is a source of pleasure for her. There are two kinds of burdens. There is the burden of the beast and the burden of love.
Interesting. Yeah.
The burden of the beast is unbearable, but the burden of love is a source of pleasure. Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur describes the burden of love very practically. He says that the burden of the husband on the young wife, the burden of the child on the lap of the mother, and the burden of wealth on the businessman, although actually burdens, from the viewpoint of heaviness, are sources of pleasure, and in the absence of such burdensome objects, one may feel the burden of separation, which is heavier to bear than the actual burden of love. When Lord Krishna referred to the burden of the Yadu dynasty on the earth, he referred to something different than the burden of the beast. The large numbers of family members born of Lord Krishna counted to some millions, and were certainly a great increase in the population of the earth. But because all of them were expansions of the Lord himself, by his transcendental plenary expansions, they were a source of great pleasure for the earth. When the Lord referred to them in connection with the burden on the earth, he had in mind their imminent disappearance from the earth. All the members of the family of Lord Hari Krishna were incarnations of different demigods, and they were to disappear from the surface of the earth along with the Lord. When he referred to the unbearable heaviness on the earth in connection with the Yadu dynasty, he was referring to the burden of their separation. Srila Jiva Goswami confirms this inference.
So, any thoughts?
Interesting. Two different burdens. It's still a burden, but if it's done out of love, or it's something, I guess, that we appreciate or want or like, it's not a burden.
Yeah. Well, it's a burden of love. That's the thing. So, it was interesting, the three analogies, right? There were three examples given.
Husband, kid.
The husband on the wife, the child on the mother, and wealth on the business person. So like that. So they're all kind of burdens. But if you don't have them, then you miss them and pine for them or long after them, right? So whenever I'm away, you pine for me, even though when I'm here, you find me a burden. And mothers do the same. You're always getting on me. You're such a pain. But as soon as the child's not there, and then the businessman chasing after money. Oh, so much hard work. Like that example, Prabhupada, once he met with this businessman, and he was complaining to Prabhupada, oh, I'm working so hard, so much business, so many things to take care of. And he said, I have such headache. Prabhupada was trying to find out, how is your spiritual life? And he said, I have no time, I'm so busy. And he said, no problem. He said, just give us your business. We'll take care of the business, and you sit down here with me and chant Hare Krishna. And the man was shocked, and he said, no. And he said, no, you have such headache, so many problems. He said, we'll take care of all your problems. You just sit down, because he was giving it as an excuse. And Prabhupada removed the excuse, and he said, no. And he said, no, it's okay, we'll take. He said, I'll bring my man now. He'll draw up the papers. You just give your business over to us. We'll take care of all the business. You just sit down. And then he left in a hurry, basically. He didn't hand over his business. Okay, text 15. When they quarrel among themselves, influenced by intoxication, with their eyes red like copper because of drinking madhu, then only will they disappear. Otherwise, it will not be possible. On my disappearance, this incident will take place. Purport. The Lord and his associates appear and disappear by the will of the Lord. They are not subjected to the laws of material nature. No one was able to kill the family of the Lord, nor was there any possibility of their natural death by the laws of nature. The only means, therefore, for their disappearance was the make-show of a fight amongst themselves, as if brawling in intoxication due to drinking. That's the only way, I guess. That so-called fighting would also take place by the will of the Lord. Otherwise, there would be no cause for their fighting. Just as Arjuna was made to be illusioned by family affection, and thus the Bhagavad Gita was spoken. So the Yadu dynasty was made to be intoxicated. So the Yadu dynasty was made to be intoxicated by the will of the Lord and nothing more. The devotees and associates of the Lord are completely surrendered souls. Thus, they are transcendental instruments in the hands of the Lord and can be used in any way the Lord desires. The pure devotees also enjoy such pastimes of the Lord because they want to see him happy. Devotees of the Lord never assert independent individuality. Devotees of the Lord never assert independent individuality. On the contrary, they utilize their individuality in pursuit of the desires of the Lord. And this cooperation of the devotees with the Lord makes a perfect scene of the Lord's pastimes. Any thoughts? No. Just that last part, I thought. Devotees of the Lord never assert independent individuality. At first I didn't understand it, but when it gives the contrary activity, which is that they utilize their individuality in pursuit of the desires of the Lord, it means that the devotee never wants to be an individual independently, but wants to utilize his individuality in a interdependent, that's probably the word, an interdependent way by engaging his individuality or her individuality in the service of the Lord. So often there's the quote Prabhupada gives that he wants his devotees to be, I've forgotten it, what is it? Independently
thoughtful.
Yeah, independently thoughtful. But everyone forgets that doesn't mean that they're separate from the mission or separate from Krishna in any way. In fact, just the opposite. They're definitely their independence is used by becoming dependent on the Lord. Or let's say, we can't say interdependent, because the Lord isn't actually dependent on us for anything, really. So it's not an interdependence. It's actually a dependence. We are actually dependent on him for everything, really. It's just we try to pretend that we're independent, right? Because interdependent means that there's like we're interdependent on one. I depend on you for so many things, and you hardly can depend on me for anything. And so like that, theoretically, it's meant to be interdependent. That's much better. Thank you for climbing out of the sofa. Welcome to the program. Okay.
Text 16.
16.
Lord Sri Krishna, thus thinking to himself, established Maharaj Yudhishthira in the position of supreme controller of the world in order to show the ideal of administration, the path of piety. Text 17. The embryo of Puru's descendant, begotten by the great hero Abhimanyu in the womb of Uttara, his wife, was burnt by the weapon of the son of Drona. But later he was again protected by the Lord. Purport. The embryonic body of Parikshit which was in formation after Uttara's pregnancy by Abhimanyu, the great hero, was burned by the Brahmastra of Ashwatthama. But a second body was given by the Lord within the womb, and thus the descendant of Puru was saved. Didn't know his body was burnt. I thought the womb was messed up. This incident is the direct proof that the body and the living entity, the spiritual spark, are different. When the living entity takes shelter in the womb of a woman through the injection of the semen of a man, there is an emulsification of the man's and woman's discharges, and thus a body is formed the size of a pea, gradually developing into a complete body. But if the developing embryo is destroyed in some way or other, the living entity has to take shelter in another body or in the womb of another woman. The particular living entity who was selected to be the descendant of Maharaj Puru or the Pandavas was not an ordinary living entity, and by the superior will of the Lord he was destined to be the successor to Maharaj Yudhishthira. Therefore, when Ashwatthama destroyed the embryo of Maharaj Parikshit, the Lord, by his own internal potency, entered into the womb of Uttara by his plenary portion, just to give audience to the would-be Maharaj Parikshit, who was in great danger. By his appearance within the womb, the Lord encouraged the child and gave him complete protection in a new body by his omnipotency. By his power of omnipresence, he was present both inside and outside of Uttara and other members of the Pandava family. Interesting. So yeah, I always understood he messed up the womb, but it seems he got a whole new body.
Yeah, I didn't understand that either. I kind of thought that the Lord just protected him.
Yeah, and then
him and Uttara, because Uttara also survived. So anyway, it's one to check out. I was just hearing this because this whole pastime is explained in the first canto. And I think, as I mentioned the other day, I've been listening to the audiobook, Krishna Dharmapur reading the first canto, Brilliant as the Sun, first canto. And it was describing, because I was having conversation, I was confused also because it seems Ashwatthama, that he, here, didn't it say Drona?
the son of Drona.
Oh yeah, the son of Drona. Because Ashwatthama first launched a Brahmastra, and Krishna encouraged Arjuna to counter attack it.
Yeah.
And he did, and then that was it. Then they eventually caught Ashwatthama. But then after he had removed the jewel from his head, instead of killing him, it was after that he launched not just one, but I think 5 Brahmastras. And in doing that, launching 5 Brahmastras, it was too much for Arjuna to counter. So at that point, Krishna himself, I can't remember. I think he used Sudarshan Chakra or something, but somehow he counteracted them. So anyway, it's just interesting because, in that he was there in the womb and protected Parikshit, and that's why Parikshit Maharaj is given the name Parikshit, which means the examiner, because he saw the Lord within the womb, and therefore after his birth, he was examining and looking at everyone, trying to find that person that he had seen in the womb, who was Krishna, like that. But of course, I guess by the time Parikshit was old enough to take up the service, by that time Krishna had already left the planet, and Yudhisthira and the Pandavas had already retired. So like that, because they retired right after Krishna left the planet, after they found out that Krishna left the planet. And that was an instruction to them, I think, from Narada Muni. I was just hearing that this morning also. Is it my turn? Text 18. The Supreme Lord induced the son of Dharma to perform 3 horse sacrifices, and Maharaj Yudhisthira, constantly following Krishna, the personality of Godhead, protected and enjoyed the earth, assisted by his younger brothers. Purport. Maharaj Yudhisthira was the ideal monarchical representative on the earth because he was a constant follower of the Supreme Lord, Sri Krishna. As stated in the Vedas, Ishopanishad, the Lord is the proprietor of the entire manifested cosmic creation, which presents a chance for the conditioned souls to revive their eternal relationship with the Lord and thus go back to Godhead, back home. The whole system of the material world is arranged with that program and plan. So that's the programming of the material world. We are here for one purpose and one purpose only, and that is to learn our lesson and get out of here and go back to the spiritual world. Unfortunately, that is not the purpose with which most people live. Most people are living thinking that we belong here, we'll stay here, we'll set up shop, make home, make some money, have some progeny, have some fun, and then we'll come back again, basically. That's kind of what happens.
Yeah, like in the immortal words of Bhaktivedanta Prabhupada, don't take the illusion too seriously.
Very nice. Anyone who violates the plan is punished by the law of nature, which is acting by the direction of the Supreme Lord. Maharaj Yudhisthira was installed on the throne of the earth as a representative of the Lord. The king is always expected to be the representative of the Lord. Perfect monarchy necessitates representation of the supreme will of the Lord. And Maharaj Yudhisthira was the ideal monarch on this supreme principle. Both the king and the subjects were happy in the discharge of worldly duties, and thus protection of the citizens and enjoyment of natural life with full cooperation of material nature followed in the reign of Maharaj Yudhisthira and his worthy descendants like Maharaj Parikshit. I couldn't help but think while reading that about the whole principle of monarchy, living in the UK, and the fact that there is still a monarchy that is kind of, it's intact in one sense. It's intact but not functioning. Or one could say it's maybe dysfunctional, but it's definitely not functioning. But it is intact. There is clarity about it. It's there. We know that there's the queen, and she's been the queen for a certain amount of time. She has her husband, she has her son, who's the next heir, their grandchildren, they're in succession of the heir. Of course, there's all the controversy. We're not going to get into that. But I was just thinking that, because that system is there, that I wonder if they just decided, this is too much nonsense going on now. We're going to take back the power,
Who, they?
The throne, the queen. She could just say, well, we're done.
I don't think it would work in this day and age, though, would it?
What, to have monarchy?
For her to try and get absolute power.
Well,
Let's do.
No, but that's. The thing is that actually, everything is hers, really, isn't it?
Well, her face is on all the money.
Her face is on all the money. HMRC is her...
Yeah, Her Majesty's, yeah.
Royal what?
I don't know.
Commerce, I think it is. Because they
all the palaces, the jewels.
Yeah, theoretically, it's her army.
Yeah.
Everything.
Her Majesty's government. Every time you have a new...
It's Her Majesty's government.
Yeah, every time the new Prime Minister is... going to say installed, but voted in. He has to go, he or she goes to see her first.
Yeah.
Goes to see her first and to say, I would like to form a government. And you may say it's just formality and ritual, fair enough, but they still do that.
That's what I mean.
Do that.
It's intact.
Yeah.
But it's not actually functioning as it, everyone's playing a game with it. But actually, I'm sure that somewhere, if they decided that they wanted to do it, it would create,
But there may be laws
first.
still existing, yeah.
It's all founded on that premise.
Yeah,
I'm for sure it's probably just an agreement that's been come to that, they'll kind of do that. Anyway, it's an interesting thing because this principle of monarchy, it's not many places where it exists. Of course, at least not in the Western world or first world countries, because democracy has taken over. But, anyway, it's an interesting point. So I couldn't help but think that, well, they probably could if they wanted to. Could just, in the famous words of Rage Against the Machine, take the power back,
Well, that's how they formed the Church of England, wasn't it? Because Henry VIII didn't want just one wife, and he had quite a few of them, killed them, chopped their heads off. And so they changed their faith. And that's how Church of England was formed, in order to That's what it's based on.
Yeah, I
Foundation.
mean the whole, yeah.
And he definitely had the power.
Well, in those days, that was it. That was the governance. Did you read or I read?
No.
You read.
You did.
Mm-hmm.
Text 19.
Oh.
Simultaneously, the personality of Godhead. Did you read the purport?
I did read the purport, yeah.
We're getting old. Simultaneously, the personality of Godhead enjoyed life in the city of Dwarka, strictly in conformity with the Vedic customs of society. He was situated in detachment and knowledge as enunciated by the Sankhya system of philosophy. Purport. While Maharaj Yudhishthira was the emperor of the earth, Lord Sri Krishna was the king of Dwarka and was known as Dwarkadish. Like other subordinate kings, he was under the regime of Maharaj Yudhishthira. Although Lord Sri Krishna is the supreme emperor of the entire creation, while he was on this earth, he never violated the principles of the Vedic injunctions because they are the guide for human life. Regulated human life according to the Vedic principles, which are based on the system of knowledge called Sankhya philosophy, is the real way of enjoyment of the necessities of life. Without such knowledge, detachment and custom, the so-called human civilization is no more than an animal society of eat, drink, be merry and enjoy. The Lord was acting freely as he willed. Yet by his practical example he taught not to lead a life which goes against the principles of detachment and knowledge. Attainment of knowledge and detachment, as very elaborately discussed in Sankhya philosophy, is the real perfection of life. Knowledge means to know that the mission of the human form of life is to end all the miseries of material existence, and that in spite of having to fulfill the bodily necessities in a regulated way, one must be detached from such animal life. Fulfilling the demands of the body is animal life, and fulfilling the mission of spirit soul is the human mission.
Mm-hmm. Fulfilling the demands of the body is animal life, and fulfilling the mission of the spirit soul is the human mission. That's great. Great way to end.
Now we're in there.
Any thoughts?
Yeah, we're just reading, my ladies ashram are reading Beyond Birth and Death.
Your ladies ashram.
Not mine. My ladies. In the ladies ashram. And it's interesting because it relates to this point about the final sentence that one thing to have knowledge, but I'm not this body. That's one thing. But in order to progress, you have to act on that knowledge. And that's when real progression and real spiritual life begins, once we act on the knowledge. It's not enough just to have the knowledge. This is stressed over and over again in this book, Beyond Birth and Death.
Very nice. Powerful.
Yeah.
And with knowledge comes grave responsibility.
And freedom.
And freedom.
And freedom.
Okay, thank you very much.
Yes.
So, Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Jai.
Jai.
If anyone wants to set of Bhagavatams, please let us know. Also, we're reading this other book because it is the 125th
Fifth, yes.
Advent year of His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai.
Jai.
So it's a great book. If anyone is interested, really, it's an amazing life story. People love true stories, real life stories.
Yeah, this is real.
And it's real, yeah. But real life adventure of a man who, at the age of 69, leaves his home in India, travels on a cargo ship to the west, and starts the Hare Krishna movement. It's really incredible. So if anyone's interested, let us know. We got lots of these books. We can make sure that you have them so you can study and read up on Srila Prabhupada, the founder of the International Society for Krishna Consciousness. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare